Finally, at long last, after over a year of intense development, my game is able to be made into a Steam page. Now all I have to do... Wait a second, what's a LLC? Yeah, screw it, I'll do it some other time. So, I've sort of been talking about how I'm making a commercial game for the glorious platform of Steam for a while now. And I also kinda said that I was gonna make a Steam page for a certain futon fighting game last video as well. Well, I lied. Sofa Scrimmage is not getting a spectacular Steam site quite yet, and the reason? Tax evasion. Well, more accurately, it's me evading having to set up tax information and make an LLC and other stuff that is more or less necessary to set up a Steam page. So the Steam page is not quite available for you to rub your grimy little fingers over yet, and I don't know when it will be. I hope to eventually get a Steam page because it's a good idea to start getting wishlists as soon as I can to appease the glorious Steam algorithm when the game finally launches. Despite all I said, Combat Wombat still received a brand new pouch for the itch demo. Haha, marsupial joke. So you can check that out after watching the entirety of this video, including the end screen. That way my viewer retention goes up, just to show that you are a true combatant. I plan on eventually making it so that you can navigate the entirety of the game with just gamepad input, because it is technically a couch game, so you should probably be able to play it on your couch. But that involves a lot of menus that I need to set up controller input in. I tried out nControl's input module, which works with Unity's default UI event system, but that didn't work at all, so I decided to just do it myself, which seems to end up happening most of the time anyways. I only spent a bit of time on this before realizing there were more pressing matters than making it so that you can menu by only pressing buttons on the controllers. So the script I ended up with wasn't great, and I cut it out of the demo I ended up publishing with this video. But it is progress. The big issue I have right now to face is the fact that some menus, like the settings menus and soon to exist game options menus, are more than just straight lines to navigate. But I quickly moved on from that to doing a bit of tailoring. Customization is a simple way to make games just a bit more interesting for players, and I plan on having two simple categories for each player to customize: colors and hats. In the last log of development, I made two hats, so I want to make those hats actually work. I did a bit of cleanup with the drop-in menu, including making it reset all values when you go back to the start menu, which makes a bit more sense and allows you to remove already dropped-in controllers. Then I got to setting up the script to allow you to cycle through your clothes. After setting that up, I added the clothes in by making the player script to grab a hat prefab from the scorekeeper and instantiate them on your comically large head in-game. Finally, I just connected it all up and it was working perfectly. Then Unity decided to crash, which actually didn't affect anything because I control S literally 3 times a second. I finalized this feature by making it that while you cycle through hats in the menu, the hats and your corresponding character also change. Speaking of that character, I also moved all the players closer together in the menu and put them on a couch, which looks much nicer and you can actually see the hats clearly now. After that hat-related adventure, I embarked on yet another on a much less sensitive topic: race. I originally tried to use shaders, but I'm stupid, so separate materials it is. The process for adding them in was pretty much the exact same as the last one, so you can go back a few seconds and watch that part of the video again, if you so please. I took this opportunity to touch up some gun animations in the game, and by that I mean just increasing their recoil for all of them tenfold. This is a very basic way to make weapons feel more powerful. I probably will have a full overhaul of each weapon, but that's in the somewhat distant future when I'm better at animating with Blender. So I've been using the exact same footage for this game for about 400 devlogs straight now, and I finally was able to gather some new gameplay with 3 players. I unfortunately was not able to find another controller. After this playtesting, I dove into a bit of bug murdering time. There were quite a few that were simple issues with the gun model, so I got to work fixing them. The Uzi was all screwed up in third person because it takes 2 models because reasons, so I went into the scripts and messed around with parents for a while before finally fixing this issue. I also fixed the burst rifle, which was looking a little bit strange, and just moved the player spawn slightly further away from the ledges, which should help alleviate the whole falling off the ledges on spawn issue. The final big hurdle I had to clear in the race of this patch was game mode options. Not sure who put a hurdle here, as this game was more like an ultra marathon that took over a month. These game options should allow you to change which stages you play on and which gun spawns, and will be accessible not only on the main menu at the start of the game, but also on the pause menu, which will let you change it at any time without having to exit to the main menu. Now, how I was going to store and save data for these settings had me stumped at first, but then I remembered that custom classes exist. I also remembered that I had no idea how to use custom classes, so I did a little bit of googling. Custom classes allow you to define multiple values and put them into one class. For example, I made a class called Stage Properties, which I then put properties in for the stage's name, icon, and if it's enabled or not. I then put these custom classes into an array which could be used for the game mode option menu, and I did very similar deeds for the gun properties. Though I could technically achieve the same result with like 5 arrays of properties, this functions much better and should be incredibly easy to expand upon for new guns and stages. I put together the rest of the basics of the script and was eventually able to get it so that I could search for this array of classes for the enabled ones, and then stick those enabled members into a list on the scorekeeper, which was then used to spawn guns or move between stages. I planned out the UI on paper and made it similar to the settings menu. Then I got to work making it. Everything was going pretty well until I got to making toggles. For some reason, toggles have never worked well for me, especially with scroll views, and after a bit I decided to just make my own toggle script because they are like 2 lines of code. Finally, I got it all put together and added to the main menu and pause menus with a decent amount of difficulty, of course. After that, it was time for saving. Unity luckily made saving settings really easy with player preferences, so I just set up loading and saving functions. After a few infinite loops and a bug that had me resetting the player preferences accidentally right before loading them, and then wondering why they didn't load properly, I got everything all nice and sort of working. But it's not over yet. The menu might function, but is it fly? So I cleaned up the layout of it all and spiced it up with this glorious preview menu that gives you a basic idea of what you're hovering over. For the gun preview, I just used the icons I made in the past, and I took new screenshots for the stages. For the last few days, I just cleaned up the game a bit for the patch. I added some default targets for the arm I key when not holding a gun, which looks just a little bit janky, but it's better than just letting them go crazy. A little more bug fixing was the final thing that I had to get done, and well, I did it. Sort of. There are probably lots more bugs, so I exported all versions of the game, which took quite a while as usual. I realized later that the About menu is still just random text from a Devlog script, so I guess I should fix that, but I kinda like it. The new demo is available as always on the glorious website of itch.io. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and like and stuff. Bye.